Okay. Right. Okay. So we're I've come to talk about the transitions from year groups. So this is for children and young people who have or do not have an educational health and care plan. For those that don't, your young people will be on SEN support. And of course, we're talking here through the whole sort of remit of whether it's from a nursery to a school, from a school to secondary, and the whole remit really. So, so the main thing to get across this morning is that the support to support transition between settings, that information needs to be shared, and that's really important for all of us, isn't it? That the information about our individual child or young person transfers from one setting to another, and this should be done in consultation with yourself. So it's really important that you are, as a parent or carer, are involved, and that the young people themselves are part of that planning process. So as I've said, the stages are between preschool, infants and primary, infants, juniors, primary and secondary, etc. And for those that have got an education, health and care plan, for the children that have, I would have hoped that the annual review would have taken place in the autumn term. And if not, they would have happened quite quickly afterwards, after Christmas. And these would usually be for those phase transfers, which are for those moving up from year 2 to year 6 and year 11. But of course, children transfer from one class to another within schools as well, one year group rather than, and so if they're on SEN support and there hasn't been any talk as yet about a transition plan, then obviously you need to be making sure that that process is started. You need to be contacting the school, and again, I would hope that discussions have already taken place. So these were just, this was just from the Code of Practice, the SEND Code of Practice 2015, 6.57 says that SEN support should include planning and preparation for the transitions between phases of education and preparation into adult life. Now, we're just really talking about the phases of education during this talk. Preparation for adult life and transition into adult services is another sort of separate thing to discuss at another time. So it says, to support transition, the school should share information with the school, college or other setting that the child or young person is moving to. And as I said, schools should agree with yourselves, the parents and the pupils or young people, the information to be shared as part of that planning process. So what are the challenges of transition for our young people? I have personal experience of a child with additional needs myself, and the key for all of this is about looking at what they're able to do, how they present themselves. So you need to be thinking on an individual basis. So, apologies, I just lost my train of thought. I've just posed some questions here really around the sorts of things that you need to be considering. So it might be that you need to think about the transition visits, and I know that's very difficult at this time with the pandemic and the situation we've all been in without being able to make visits to schools. I'm sure quite a few of you will have been quite frustrated by the fact that schools wouldn't allow visits, and that everything's being done online. But sometimes the extra, the way that we have access to online support in looking at what schools do provide, it is actually quite helpful. So what can you actually do to help your child? I'll just go back if that's all right. So what can you do? So there's a few ideas here that you could perhaps put into practice. So putting together a sort of transition book. I'm sure many of you may have already tried this, but having photographs of the new setting, the school, the classrooms. If you are able to take your young person on a visit, if the school will allow that, perhaps they can go and take photographs themselves and put a book together, or the schools can do that for you or yourself, and help having photos of the school and the setting and perhaps the teachers and the staff that your child's going to be working with in the future will allow them to spend time over the summer or in the weeks before the summer holidays in sort of preparation in order to become familiar with what the school is going to look like, and people that they're going to be sort of familiar with when they move. So what does your child need to know? Are there particular staff that they're going to be working with? Are they, when they get moved to a school, where will they go if they want to ask a question? They need to know who is there for them, and who is where to go, basically. The thing for you to do as parents and carers is to ask questions, really. It's having as much information up front that can be there to enable your young person, your child, to have a successful transition. It's important not to just rely on the school as much as we'd love to, that without you asking questions, it's important that you ask those questions in order to have the information you need. Go on.
Sorry, that's me. Paul, if you've got a question, can you stick it in chat for us, please?
Yeah, sorry, I'll continue.
Chat mode on my phone. I'm sorry, I don't do Zoom very often, so I'm not really, too good on these Zooms yet.
Okay, did you have a quick question, Paul?
Well, I just want to ask quickly, this information is brilliant, but I haven't got a school for my son selected yet. Because...
Paul, that's not, can we do, there'll be lots of people in the same position. Can we have that question at the end? Because I know I've already got it a couple of times. But can we just let Tim run through the slides? It's not something Tim can fix, but he might be able to advise us on next steps.
Yeah, apologies. I do understand what you're saying, and I will be coming to that point towards the end. And I guess what I wanted to do was just to go through what the main pointers are. And this obviously isn't ideal, but as I say, I will discuss that point. So yes, just to continue really. What's happened there? Oops, sorry. I'm obviously not doing this very well, am I, today?
It's fine. It's just the additional pressure of everybody watching what you're doing.
All right, just bear with me. Okay. Yeah, so just to continue really. So it's just really looking at what your young person, your child needs when they move on to the next setting. And you, as I said, you can have a copy of this afterwards. But it's just important. And there is the opportunity that you should work with the school and or the setting that they're going to be going from, and particularly to, in terms of putting together a transition plan. And the important thing is to make sure that everyone who is going to be involved with your child, from the new setting, from the old setting, and any other professionals that are involved, are actually part of that that meeting or that transition plan. So there is on the Hampshire Educational Psychology website, there is a transition plan document that you can find and use. When I say you, it should really be the school or the setting that your child is moving from that put this together. And it's really important that the plan is made and recorded, and that everybody who is responsible for different parts of the plan actually are named on it, so that they hold a responsibility for that part in particular. One of the things I haven't mentioned already, but is really useful, is a document known as a either an hour story or not an hour story, like a passport, my passport, that enables you to support your child to put down what it is that they find helps them during their day at school. So this could be what works well, what doesn't work well, what a good day looks like, what a bad day looks like, so that the information can be recorded and passed on to teachers in the future school, so that they have all the information they need. You know, what is it that if your child is feeling upset, you know, how do they react? Do they react in a certain way? So that these are pointers that can be looked out for. And this can form
Can I interject quickly? Sorry,
yeah. Just
a quick one from me, because I wanted to share that link that you mentioned to where they can find the transition plan. But can you just tell me again where it is?
Yeah, so it's the first point is I looked at the Hampshire and Isle of Wight Educational Psychology team, their website on it's on there, but I also I have actually put the link on some information later on.
Oh, brilliant.
So it will be on there.
I'll shush, sorry.
No, that's fine. And I did I looked through the local offer as well, so if you can go through the local offer, but the link will be there. I've also put a link on for this communication passport, or this passport that you can set up with your child, and that's quite useful as well, just to get that put together. And maybe it's something that the school could do, or it could be yourselves, but it would be helpful, you know, as information to pass on to those that are going to be working with your child, because there are so many different elements, like the environment, people, the noises of schools, you know, the sound of the larger schools, and so many different things to consider. So but it's worth sort of looking at those, really. Okay, so the question coming up is, and as many of you already sort of highlighted, is, you know, what if you still don't know which school or college your child or young person will be attending? Unfortunately, many of you are in this situation, and I'm sure in the discussion we have afterwards that hopefully we'll be able to sort of give you some direction as to the way to move forward. For those that haven't heard, and I'm sure you will have chased the local authority already, but this would be your first port of contact, is the local authority SEN team, as frustrating as that might be. But yeah, so I mean, the legal duties that when a child or young person with an education, health and care plan enters the school, the school has a legal duty to have everything in place, and the local authority has a statutory duty to secure the provision specified in section F of the EHC plan, and every child is entitled to a full-time education. So just to finish off with the slides, and then we can move on to a bit more of a discussion. These are the web links that I mentioned that you can look at. Okay. Right, I'm going to stop sharing my screen. Sorry, that was a little bit disjointed, and I do apologise.
I stuck a link in the chat for everyone of a document I found when doing a person profile or a pupil passport or an all about me or whatever we want to call it document. Really helpful, and just giving you ideas of the sort of things to put in there, because I think sometimes there's no point reinventing the wheel, is there? It's really helpful to see some that have already done. Right, super. I've got a couple of questions already. I am sure there are going to be more. I know Paul has touched briefly on what do we do if we don't have a placement at this point. Is that something you can talk to us any more about, Tim?
Can I just ask, is it possible to ask Paul to clarify a little bit?
Okay.
Yeah, we need to be a bit careful that we don't get into individual, because I have several of these from different people. So let's see if we can do it generically, and then see how we go.
That's fine. Yeah, so there are those, aren't there, that currently that haven't got placements identified, and it depends on which stage they're at. So I'm guessing that some have received or haven't received their final plan, their final education, health and care plan with that identified placement on it. Yeah, okay. You would be needing to be chasing the SEN, the individual education, special educational needs team. I mean, you can use Hampshire SENDIASS. We unfortunately we don't have a hotline to SEN that many parents do think that we do have, but we can chase on and work with you to help you do that if that is necessary. We are always feeding back, you know, the issues that parents are having difficulty with or experiencing with SEN, so we're able to feed that in, just like Hampshire Parent Carer Network do that as well. I know we work together with them. It's very difficult if you haven't got a final plan, because obviously you haven't got that right to appeal, and maybe it's just a case of pressing the local authority to produce a final plan.
And any advice on how to do that, Tim?
What, to press them
to the local authority to finalise a plan?
I suppose, you know, obviously contacting them either by phone, but the one line through the SEN helpline is sometimes quite busy. It is very time consuming, but it is worth keep trying. You could put in a request through to the sort of senior managers. Maybe it's through a complaint. If you've tried to get hold of the SEN team and, you know, they're not responding to emails, then you need to take the formal sort of complaint process, really. Maybe copying in, if you know of any senior managers, to copy them in.
Yeah, it's not straightforward. It came up yesterday in our parent-led engagement session, unsurprisingly, and the advice from HCC was to use your locality email box so that you're not, you know, it's being seen and potentially put attention of in the subject line. But it
is a difficult one, because
it's not easy.
Yeah, so like you just said, if you put in, so for example, Fareham Gosport would be fareham.gosport.sen, at least one member of the team is supposed to look at that box every day. So if you've got a particular caseworker that you've been emailing and you're not getting anything back, then maybe you can still put the caseworker on, but copy it into the Fareham Gosport or the Basingstoke team, to, whichever one it is for your local area, because that way you're sort of covering all bases really. We've been told that they are looking at that every day, and then they should be actioning. So they have someone on duty that should be actioning that.
Okay, I've got one that's similar, but because it's somebody moving from school into college, there's some extra complications. So my son is due to move from his specialist sixth form to a 3-day college course in September. As of yet, we have no confirmation of his placement, which not only provides uncertainty and reduces time for any planned transition, but means we are unable to progress his 2-day social care placement. Please, can you advise how to move forward? And I guess the issue here is that not only do they have the placement, but without the placement, you can't do the other bit.
No, I mean, I'm sure the parents been in touch with the college, because obviously that's all been arranged. It's very difficult, isn't it? We're, as a parent or carer, your hands are sort of tied, aren't they, really, in terms of, moving this forward. We just have to keep pressing the SEN team to move it to a point where, we've got the information that we need, really. Using the complaints process, again, difficult, but you need to do that. And if it came to it, then a complaint through the local government ombudsman, but you have to have gone through the complaints process first in order to sort of get to that point, really. But there are other things, but it doesn't help you in that immediate situation. It's like, how long is a piece of string, isn't it?
Unfortunately. It sort of escalates at your earliest opportunity.
Yeah,
isn't it, I guess?
Definitely. Yeah. But and do get us involved if you want us to help you with that.
Yeah, and I think that's really good advice for anybody who hasn't. I know myself as a parent like to think I can do it all on my own. And I think sometimes it's really, really advisable to call on SENDIASS. You've done this umpteen times, because they really can, potentially unblock things for you. So don't be afraid to give them a call. I'll pop their details in the chat in a minute. Right, slightly different one. Who would be responsible for a transition plan for my son who is moving into college? Is it his existing school or the college?
Well, it should be a joint plan, really. So if the existing school should be putting the plan together, but liaising with the college as well, if they would be involved. It's about a joint meeting, really. And I suppose the input would be, who knows the child best, really. It depends. And again, I guess it really depends on what your current school setting, is like, and how sort of forward thinking they are in terms of what information needs to be transferred over. I would say don't necessarily rely on the current school. You might need to put quite a lot of input into that yourself, really.
Would you be hoping that there might be because if people have had annual reviews already, would you be hoping that there was some kind of transition meeting arranged at some point?
Well, there should be. There should be. Yeah. I mean, this. We're looking now. We're after Easter. We're coming up for half term, but certainly the half term between May and the end of the year. But up till then as well, now is the time to start sort of asking those questions. What is the plan going to look like? What information needs to be on there? Don't rely, check up what information the school are passing on. Unfortunately, I've come across several situations from calls with parents where, they've said, my child transferred to year 7, and I understood the primary school was going to send information to the secondary school, but they haven't got that information. So, do it yourself if necessary.
It's being not afraid of treading on toes, isn't it?
Absolutely.
It's better to duplicate it than it is to miss it.
Definitely. Yeah. And your child best as well. You know what it's like when they come home from school or college, or and they've not had a good day. They've maybe held it together throughout the day, and then they come home and it all comes out, or it doesn't come out, but it comes out in other ways. So you know what those reactions are like, really.
I think some of these documents need input from home and input from school, because I know for myself, looking at something like the person profile, there's certainly elements I can have, but when it's looking at best way to help me in class when, I very much need the input from school to do those things. And it's something as simple as, for my daughter, as blowing up a document from A4 to A3. And it's so simple, and yet it makes such a difference, but you need to tell somebody.
Yeah.
Okay, another one that's connected to placements, but again, about if you don't know the placement, what happens with something else. So I'm still waiting for confirmation of my child's place, and I'm concerned about the transport situation.
Sorry, could you just repeat that? Sorry, the bit.
So it's someone who hasn't got a place yet for their child.
Right.
And presumably that place would then earn them the right to transport, but without the place, they can't have the next discussion.
No. Again, that's yeah. So I suppose that you would be wanting to make sure that you can't, I mean, transport, you could have a conversation with transport in order to preempt what is going to happen, and there's no reason why you shouldn't contact transport in that respect. But I guess they would probably say, well, we haven't had confirmation of the placement, therefore we can't make arrangements. They will do what they their level best to make sure that everything is sorted out as soon as they've got that information.
It's almost impossible to do too much in this situation, isn't it?
I know, and it is very difficult when you don't know where your child or young person is going to be going, and how do you prepare them? If they're the ones that their peers perhaps know what college or school they're going to, and they don't. It's just not a good situation to be in.
And we're talking about young people who need more preparation and are getting less.
Yeah.
Okay,